Not Nerd Podcast, Episode 287, WWDC 2021.
Welcome to the Not Nerd Podcast. I'm Nate Ethan. We are here to help you tech better. Here with me, as always, Mr. Dave Baylor.
Well, hello there, Nate. I am calling you from location in the sometimes sunny Astoria, Oregon.
Yes. Yes, we are on quite an adventure this morning with the Apple's WWDC Developers Conference keynote that we were both trying to watch as you... You went to many measures to make this happen today.
Well, I do all this for our listening audience because you and I utilize and test technology in ways so that we can speak about it to other people. And
yes.
We're on a short trip meeting some friends, and so during the keynote, my wife was driving our car and I was using cellular technology to try to stream the keynote so I could watch it and talk to you at the same time with another cellular device. And it worked mostly. But when you live in a mountainous region like Washington and Oregon, cellular signal can come and go, at the will of the topography. So for the most part, it worked, but I wouldn't say it worked well.
No, but hopefully it worked well enough. They went for almost 2 hours going over everything. And if you're looking for the 2LDW, too long didn't watch, or didn't listen, I guess, to our podcast, the summary is Apple has new software coming out this fall for all their different things: iOS, iPadOS, macOS, watchOS, HomeKit, this and everything else. And this keynote is very interesting because this is their developers conference, but they spent about the last 10 minutes actually talking to developers, and their whole week is scheduled around doing a million different sessions on all the different new features and APIs and all of that stuff. But they spend most of this keynote telling norms like us that are not developers some of the new features that are coming. So let's go ahead and get into it. We will start with iOS 15. Now, many of these features, as they continue to do, are going to the different operating systems, but they did start with iOS, and they started with FaceTime, and they've added a new feature called SharePlay, where with just about anything, take that back. Just about anything from Apple apps, and then other apps can add this in. You will be able to, say, watch a video, play a game while on FaceTime, and let other people watch things together. Now, we've seen this with many other services, kind of this shared viewing experience, but with FaceTime, looks like it's going to be pretty good. Now, the thing in our world that we're excited about is you can share your screens. So when Aunt Hilda calls and she can't log into the app or get onto the thing or figure out the thing, if you can get her to, she could share her screen so you could walk through her on a FaceTime call. But yeah, what are your initial thoughts on the SharePlay stuff?
I think it's good with many of these things. I think it's a little past its prime. It would have been great to have stuff like this last year, but at least last year during the pandemic, it informed technology companies what people are looking for and ways to stay connected either at work or in their personal lives. And so a lot of these sharing features are cool. The watch together thing, I suppose, it's not going to be much different than like the Netflix watch together stuff that they've had, because I think the partners streaming applications have to participate in this in order for it to work. And if the partners aren't participating, it's not like you can just open up the HBO app and start watching with a friend. It's going to be locked out unless they participate in this. And so I think there's probably going to be a lot of groundwork to get all the third parties on board. And I'm not sure I want to watch content that way. It's interesting, but I suppose if you're in a long distance relationship, or if you have a group of friends that you always watched a TV show with and you move away, you could continue that tradition, or you can just use like your laptop or computer to kind of do the same thing.
Yes. They did do some other improvements that are coming to FaceTime as well. There's a grid view. You can do portrait mode where it'll blur the background. They've got some new mic modes that'll help with either voice isolation or picking up all the audio, especially with your AirPods and such.
Yeah.
Now, the big one for FaceTime is huge. You can not only schedule and share FaceTime calls with a unique web link, you can do it to Windows or Android. So you will now be able to have FaceTime calls via a web link with all your Windows and Android friends.
So it's not exactly messages comes to Android. It's more that they've opened up their connection back end to the web.
Yes.
And so instead of just using the application to send audio, video, and text, they're routing that through a web destination so that third-party manufacturers of hardware and software can tie into that. So yes, you will be able to send a connection link to someone on Android, provided they use their web browser. The experience, who knows what it's going to be like, but you should be able to do a lot of these things with people of the other, on the dark side, the light side, whatever side of the fence.
We'll just say the other side.
The other side, yeah.
Yes. And as you can imagine, they also announced that there's some updates coming to Messages and Memoji, a lot better when you're sharing photos and sharing different things, and it'll tie in better with other apps, like if you share a song or a podcast or photos, TV shows, all of that stuff. Looks like it's going to be a lot better layout there. And then the new Memoji, it says, now you can choose outfits for your Memoji and express yourself with new stickers.
Wow.
Represent your look and style with multicolor headwear, and accessibility customizations now include cochlear implants, oxygen tubes, and soft helmets.
Oh my. Because people who want to portray their avatars to the rest of the world are very interested in putting the things that kind of separate them from society, like an oxygen tube or something. You would think that they would want their avatar to represent the ideal self, not one that has to rely on these things. But at the same time, I can see that people want their avatars to look exactly like them on one hand. But, I'm always putting like superhero pictures in there and idolized pictures or funny pictures or whatever. I'm not that concerned with my various social media avatars representing exactly how I look,
Yes.
But I'm sure there are some people who do.
I'm just hoping they didn't mention it, but there will be mustache extensions.
Oh boy.
We can only hope.
Yeah.
Yes. So the next big kind of tentpole that they talked about across the different different operating systems is a new focus mode. So the way I see this, and of course with all this stuff, we will learn so much more before it's actually released, and some of it might even change by this fall or next month. There will be public betas. Is this focus where I see it as do not disturb with options. So you can have different basically do not disturb profiles so that you can decide what comes through at different times. So if it's during fitness, you're working out, but you still want to be able to get calls from family or certain notifications from certain apps, or if you're playing games and still you can customize and turn these on so that you can decide what to focus. Like if you're trying to focus on work, email notifications for your work email address. And so it looks like this is a good extension of just either you're all on or you have do not disturb on and you're not getting anything or very little. So I think this is going to be a good thing to help people customize those different things, and it syncs across all your different devices so you can set it one place and kind of get locked in on what you need to be focused on.
And for those of you who follow along with the GTD methodology, or Getting Things Done by David Allen, this lines up with the contexts. A lot of those getting things done and task management profiles will talk about where you are and what you're doing at the time. So your context is work, your context is telephone. So maybe you're going to do all of your calls for personal and business with your context of telephone. I see this focus working in much the same way, where I'm at home with my family. That's my context. And so I can set my notifications and everything to align with where I want to be at that point. And then when I'm at work, I'm changing my context. I want the notifications to come in and all those things. So it seems like a good way to manage all of the communication that's coming into your device at any given time.
Yes. And I will do a quick note here. Usually we say at the top of the show, go watch the presentation. It was, just amazing. You got to see it all. This one, man, at 2 hours, there is a lot of stuff that just lost me. So listen to our podcast, go check out the Apple website, go find one of those, here's everything in 5 minutes kind of a thing. Speaking of focus, I don't know that the 2 hour watch is the best use of your time on this one.
Unless you're a developer and you really want to see that stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, indeed. Notifications, they're making notifications better. Maps, they're doing some really cool looking stuff. It's pretty limited in the cities as far as the 3D and kind of really actually putting different buildings in there. Immersive walking instructions, kind of the AR stuff that we've talked about, some new transit features.
If you're in San Francisco or London, you're going to love it.
Yes. Everybody else, stay tuned. They actually did announce again across the different OSs a updated Safari, and on the phone they're adding this new tab bar design where you kind of have your different tabs across the bottom where you can swipe through your tabs. Now, I am a big proponent of bottom-based navigation on a phone so that your hand isn't covering up the screen while you're trying to do things. So this is a step in that way, and some new tab groups features that look very cool on. We'll get to macOS, but there it's kind of a bigger overhaul of Safari, but I think this is going to be very nice, as well as voice search and Safari extensions coming to the phone. You can have, we talk all the time about different extensions for a browser on our desktop, but now these, extension makers will be able to add them to all of your devices, which I think will be really cool because that's kind of lacking in the mobile experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Wallet is getting some updates. You'll be able to add ID cards like driver's license or state ID to Wallet where accepted, which we were joking that in Oregon with the still waiting on the contact tracing app that was supposed to come 6 months ago now. That probably will not happen. I don't know how quickly Oregon will be able to get their act together on that, but it looks like they've got a very secure, privacy-focused way, which was a theme throughout, as you should know by now with Apple. And then also some key features. Now your iPhone can unlock your home, your garage, your hotel room, and even your workplace alongside cars. So that's building more into Wallet. So maybe they'll have to change the name to Wallet and Keys together. But that stuff also works kind of in the home stuff. So we'll find out more about that.
I am excited about that, though. I would love to be able to walk into a place of business or my home just with my phone and the doors unlock. And there are other systems that have allowed this in the past, August locks and various things, the Wise locks. But having it integrated into your phone's wallet system would just make it that much better and that much faster.
Yes, they also talked about some big features coming, I guess, to the camera or to images on your devices with live text. So now this is very similar to Google Lens, which we've talked about before, but with this, even if you have your camera open and let's say you're at a conference and there's a bunch of text on the screen and you'll always see people taking out their phones to take a picture of it. Well, now you can actually just open up your camera and just copy the text and paste it in somewhere else. It'll also find text in your image images that are already on your devices or in messages or on websites, where you'll be able to utilize that text, and it'll be processing it and translate it in a few languages, which I think this is going to be really a great feature. Again, you can do a lot of this with Google Lens, but to have this native in the system is going to be able to be great. I'm just thinking of screenshots I've taken, and if I'm able to search in photos by what text was in that, like a serial number or something like that, and be able to pull it up. And I think that's going to be, the search is going to be across kind of all of Apple's stuff, where you can find stuff real easily. And it's also going to work with the visual lookup, which this is really what Google Lens does a lot of. If you take a picture of a flower, it can look it up, or a dog, or a landmark, and can give you information on that. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I don't know that this is something that people were just knocking down the door for, these features that everybody was clamoring for, but they're going to really add to the quality of life in using these apps, and just make things that much better, and across the entire ecosystem, where it's just going to become second nature, and it'll be like, how did we ever live without this feature? So I'm excited to try it out as well.
And also in the photos, they have a new interactive memories feature where, it'll put together those videos for you. Well, you can go in and kind of modify those, and they were showing you could pick a song from Apple Music, and it will smartly adapt to the tempo of the song and transitions and all of that stuff, which I don't really use that, but it looks cool.
Yeah. You and I are both more Google Photo people, so that's probably why we're not too excited, but it seems like it's a great addition to Apple Photos for sure.
Yes, it'll allow people to quickly make some fun little experiences with their photos. They did talk about health. There's some health app updates. My brain started going a little foggy at this point, but you can you can do some health sharing within your family, so that you can be able to see things, and they're building in a lot more stuff that you can monitor in there, and kind of just really building around that, which they've really been at the forefront on that stuff as well.
With your spouse now, you can look at that information and be like, you need to get busy, fatty. Start doing some work. I'm sure that'll work great.
Yes. Oh, and privacy, as I said, they talked about it throughout. They've got some new app privacy reports, mail privacy protection, where you can do some things there. Siri, this is a huge one. Audio of your Siri requests never leaves your device, and so much more of Siri is happening on device, so you won't have to, especially if you're in a bad spotty network area and Siri just sits there and spins and never does anything. They've really moved a lot of it to the device with privacy and efficiency. They did a demo, and it looked like it's going to be so much quicker, which is much needed. Yeah,
what a lot of these devices do is they take your voice sample, they send them off to the cloud somewhere, and a very powerful server parses through the information, determines the result, and sends it back to your device. Not only are there privacy implications, there's latency implications. And so doing everything on device, I'm so looking forward to. Gone are the days of me saying, hey, dingbat, make a timer, and it sits and spins and goes, like 3 minutes later, oh, I wasn't able to do that thing that you asked for. I'm like, well, I could have just did it myself way faster.
Yes.
So it's going to hopefully eliminate all of that.
Yes. And then because we needed another service with Plus at the end.
Yes.
And I believe I heard him say that there's no change in pricing. iCloud is just becoming iCloud Plus. And with this, they're adding iCloud Private Relay, which is basically a built-in VPN for your phone.
Oh, nice.
They're adding Hide My Email, where you can generate randomized email addresses whenever you're filling out a form online or things, so they'll still come to you, but you're not having to give out your email address in more places, as well as expanded HomeKit secure video support. So we'll learn more about that. Again, we're fresh off this 2-hour eye-glazing video, and we will listen to 1 million podcasts and read 100,000 articles this week as people figure out more of this stuff and as developers are able to get into the beta versions and see what all this means. They've got some new widgets too. Find My is getting some updates. They talked about with AirPods, they're building in Find My for AirPods, what'll kind of work more like the AirTags, which is huge. I think just on the AirPods Pro and the AirPods Max at this point. But one more thing, this is always what people want to know. iOS 15 is compatible all the way back to the iPhone 6S.
Oh, wow.
Which is crazy that they are able to do that. I mean, that's years and years worth of iPhones. Now, I would not recommend anybody still be using an iPhone 6S. It's time to upgrade, but that is really generous of Apple. You might have some of the features be limited just because the hardware was so different back then. I mean, we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago those phones came out.
Yeah, and I recently picked up an iPhone 6S, and I use it for various things as kind of like a backup or an additional device to do things. I use it with my drone a lot, so I'm not having to use my main phone to operate the drone. And I'm excited about this because I thought, well, this will be good for older apps. And once the new OS comes out, it's going to be a ticking time bomb as far as its usefulness. But knowing that it's supported now, all the new applications that are supported on iOS 15 moving forward should still work on that device. And so I couldn't be happier about that announcement.
Yes. Well, let's move on to iPadOS, which I will say gets all of the features of iOS, plus these additional features for the most part. There might be a few of the things on iOS that aren't coming over, but they've got a whole new multitasking menu, which a lot of people were looking for. It was kind of clunky, but there's some new ways where you can choose your apps, and you can do the split view stuff. Looks to work better. You can center a window. There's a new shelf for kind of managing across the bottom all of your different views that you're looking for. And
on top of all those multitasking innovations, you can also put widgets wherever you want to. They're not now stuck in the sidebar.
Yes. So widgets are fully coming to iPadOS, so you can do them much like you do on the phone. Widgets on the home screen is the big announcement there, as well as new widgets that are coming. And the app library is also coming to iPadOS, which why they were not there last year, both of those things, the widgets and the app library, I am not sure.
I think, it just had to do with development time and resources. The iPhone is their biggest seller. It is the biggest number of users. It's the biggest everything about Apple. And so they made sure to have all those features available. And I think the iPad, they just weren't ready, and it was kind of half-baked. And so they just weren't ready to pull the trigger. So now that the two operating systems, both iPhone and iPad, are separate, we'll probably see more of these things in the future where development will be delayed on one or the other, and they'll eventually catch up. But I'm glad that they waited and they took the time necessary to kind of give it a complete overhaul, because the multitask environment on the iPad is just way different than the experience on the iPhone. So that's one area where they just needed extra time to implement.
Yes. There's a new quick notes feature as part of Apple Notes on iPadOS, where you can just kind of drag up from the corner whatever app you're working in, type a note, pull in links, copy, paste stuff, and then it saves to your notes. I think that'll be really great feature, since I'm a big fan of notes, and that'll work really well. Let's see. FaceTime, so it's kind of repeating some of the stuff.
Yeah, because they go across the multiple operating systems.
Yes. Yeah, so I'm scrolling furiously here and see what else. But yeah, again, all of the stuff that we talked about on iOS, the Safari
the focus and all those
improvements.
things.
Yeah, maps. Still no weather app though. I didn't see that, and no multiple users. I really wish they could figure that out on iPad.
That's a much needed thing for families of more than just one person.
Yes. Swift Playgrounds, which is kind of the way to learn to code on iPad, is getting a bunch of new features. So if that's something you played around with, you can do a bunch of new things. Mm-hmm. Oh, and then they showed off a really cool demo of what they're calling universal control. So what they did, they had an iMac, they had a laptop on a desk. They bring the iPad next to it. You move your mouse or your ouse to the corner of the screen, and the interface kind of pops up. Then you can just drag over and it becomes a mouse on your iPad. So you can use your mouse and your keyboard on multiple devices, multiple Macs or a Mac and an iPad, and just kind of drag, and you can drag and drop. So like, let's say you drew an image on your iPad and you're doing a presentation on your Mac, you can move over to the iPad, grab the image, drag it onto the Mac. This looks really cool. It'll be interesting to see, kind of once it comes out, but there's also some more features with that where it's really going to make it smooth to be able to do things between multiple Mac devices. Now, we've recently talked about some different softwares to be able to do this kind of thing, but now once it's built in, kind of like the sidecar feature where you can use your iPad as an external monitor, usually when Apple does it, it just works a lot better than these third-party apps.
And I like to think of this feature that we were just talking about where you can it's a keyboard video mouse switch across your devices. I like to think of it as continuity mode on steroids, because before if you were using Safari on one device, it would prompt you on the other device, hey, do you want to continue surfing the web on this web page? Now you can just use that said device within your mouse keyboard environment without having to change, again, this word contexts of moving from one device to the other. You can use them both at the same time in a very simple way.
And so tied with that feature, we will move on to macOS Monterey.
Yes, we've got the name.
We've got the name. And so this is also coming this fall like everything else, and we've got most of the same features as far as FaceTime and messages and all that great stuff. As I mentioned before, Safari, it's kind of got this newer, cleaner interface with the tabs are changed a little bit, and these tab groups and some different things you can do. It looks really nice.
Yeah.
As does most Apple stuff. But one thing they did talk about with Monterey is you can now do AirPlay to a Mac. So, like if you have an Apple TV, you can pull something up on your phone, some photos, and send it to your TV. Well, now you can do the same thing with your Mac. So this will be a very cool feature to be able to, use the great speakers in your Mac or anything, but do stuff on your phone. And again, all of the operating systems are getting a lot closer together with a lot of these features, which is nice to just be able to seamlessly use things between devices. And the big one for macOS Monterey is shortcuts are coming to the Mac, which we got, was that 2 years ago now that we first got shortcuts?
I believe so.
On iOS, and they are coming to Mac, so it'll make it very easy for the average person to be able to do. There was ways to do it before on a Mac, but now you'll be able to borrow shortcuts from other people or just pick them from the gallery and be able to click a button and just be able to do things, multiple steps very quickly on the Mac.
We had Automator on the Mac for years and years, and then shortcuts were developed for iOS devices that worked in much the same way, but maybe in a more simple and more powerful way. And now it's come full circle where shortcuts are coming back to the Mac and replacing that Automator functionality. I don't know if they're going to leave both of them there or if they're going to replace Automator fully, but it's the same idea, and you should be able to have the same experience. And so it's great how these two operating systems complement each other, and they're not competing with one another.
Yes. And a couple of other notes on Monterey. They are adding spatial audio with your AirPods Pro or Max to Mac models with the M1 chip. So you'll be able to do that spatial audio stuff and a low power mode for your laptops. So you can flip that on and conserve battery when that's the key. When you're not near any power and you need to get something done, you can switch on that low power mode, and so that'll be a nice feature when needed.
Yeah, that's kind of nice because we've had that on our iOS devices for years. Now coming to the Mac. The M1 Macs have such great battery life, but when we're doing things like this, a Zoom meeting, and I'm looking at the web and doing other things, the battery can take a pretty big hit. So maybe when I'm done, I might want to switch this in low power mode to eke out a few more hours of usefulness when I'm not doing these high level tasks.
Yes, and the last OS they did talk about some HomeKit stuff as well, that HomeKit's going to work better. I'll leave it at that. But watchOS 8, where they added, you're going to be able to do like a portrait photo for your watch face, where it kind of blurs the background and brings just gives it a little more dynamic content there. But they added some more photos features. Well, you'll be able to do a little more there and be able to quickly send them in a message, because right now it's pretty limited what you can do with photos on your Apple Watch, which again, I don't know how many people are doing a lot with photos on their Apple Watch. It's got the new watchOS has a big new smart home, or the home app. You'll be able to do a lot more in there. See who's at the door, see what package has been delivered, control some more things with the home app. So they're doing some updates there, which will be nice. And they've also had some new health and fitness stuff, which we will see that, sleeping, workouts, all of that stuff. So that's in a very long nutshell. I don't know what the longest nut is. What they talked about today, and some of the new features are coming. They look great. Again, we won't see most of this until the fall, but we did want to cover it since we made the effort to watch it and see all the new stuff. And it looks like everything's heading in the right direction. And I'm excited to see what Apple does over the summer. And we did not get any new hardware today. I buried the lead there. We were hoping for new hardware. They got to a little section talking about AirPods, and I let out a audible woohoo, and then they didn't announce any new hardware. So hopefully we'll be seeing some new hardware this summer between laptops and AirPods and whatever else they have up their sleeve. But today was just talking about the new software, and it all looks great in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a great year ahead of us as far as software and hardware is concerned. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. Well, with that, we will be back to our regularly scheduled programming next week for the episode. Thank you so much for listening. Now get out there and tech better.